Now let's start with Linux from the beginning, history and evolution. So in this lecture, we will learn the history of Unix, why Linux was created, what is the Minix, why Linux is so popular, and points to be noted. Now let's start with the history of Unix. So actually, it started in 1964 in New Jersey when some people of Bell Labs tried to create a multi-user operating system or OS. So they worked on it till 1969. After facing a lot of failures, they withdrew the project. Then a group of 5 people, including Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson, successfully created an operating system called Unix, the Uniplexed Information and Computing Service, better known as Unix. They published this OS as open source, free to use and edit the code base. And in 1975, a version of Unix was released labeled Unix version 6. It became very popular. Some companies tried to make a profit from it. So they made their own commercial version of flavor of Unix, like IBM iX, Sun Solaris, Mac OS, UX, and so on. Now, the question is why Linux was created. So Linus Torvalds, the creator of Linux kernel, in simple words, Linus Torvalds created Linux because he didn't have money to buy Unix. He was a student at the University of Helsinki. In early 1991, he decided to do a project on Unix, but free versions of Unix were too old, and the other commercials are too costly, like $5,000. So he thought of creating his own OS. Now, one question may arise, that is Linux an exact copy of Unix? Is that so? No, actually it is not. Let us clear this for you. For idea purpose, Linus did research on Unix, but more than Unix, he did research on Minix OS. And no, Linux is not an exact copy of Unix. So what is Minix? Now, as you can see from this graphical user interface, Minix was created by Andrew S. Tannenbaum on 1987. Minix is a Unix-like operating system based on microkernel architecture. Now, the term here Unix-like, which means that it runs the same programs, or it is capable of running the same programs or same architecture of software, the same as Unix. So that's why it is called Unix-like. The main reason behind creating Minix is to teach his students, and the book he was writing, Operating System Designs and Implementation. And another fact here, actually, Minix is a text-oriented operating system with a kernel of fewer than 6,000 lines of code. Now, the question is why Linux is so popular. Linux is so much popular that most IT companies ask their candidates that do they have knowledge or experience of Linux-based OS. Some points are mentioned below of the reason why it is so popular features. First, it is an open source, lightweight, it is secure, it is multi-user, multitask, it is simplified update for all the installed software, multiple distributions like Red Hat, Debian, CentOS, Ubuntu, Kali Linux, etc., etc. Now, points to be noted. Actually, Linux is a kernel and not an operating system. And GNU is a collection of free software. So if you ever heard of this term GNU, okay, it is a collection of a free software that these two projects collapse give us the Linux. Or actually, it is called GNU Linux operating system, which means the kernel and the collection of the free softwares together. Linux is not a Unix clone. It was written from the scratch. A Linux distribution is the Linux kernel and collection of software that together created an OS. Okay, Linux distributions like Kali Linux, Ubuntu, CentOS, Fedora, etc., etc. Some companies and open source communities adopt GNU Linux codebase, did some modifications, and create their own version or distributions. For example, we have the Red Hat, RHEL, we have Fedora, Debian, Ubuntu, CentOS, Kali Linux, and so on. Thanks for watching.